I know we're here in Llandudno and you're talking to a Scouser who barely speaks English, but I understand that the Welsh language is really important to you.
Fel dach chi'n gweld, dwi'n dysgu Cymraeg a dwi wedi bod yn dysgu am tua blwyddyn rwan. Dwi'n byw yn Benmaen Mawr rwan, ond dwi'n dod o Aberbargoed yn y Der yn reiddiol.
So tell me a little bit about your family.
Well, as I said to you just now, I grew up in Aberbargoed. My father was a minister, so I grew up in a Christian home and loved every minute of it. I had so much fun growing up in my parents' home. I actually remember a story. We used to go across to the Aber Conference every year and we'd stay in Neuadd John Williams Hall on the front there in Aberystwyth, and we'd go into the prayer meeting as a family, whole family. I was really young at the time, but we'd go in to the prayer meeting in that hall, and I remember one year my brother and I went in a little bit earlier, and they used to have those seats. I don't know if you remember them, but they were like really comfy seats, but they had the rubber bands underneath the cushion where you'd sit, and we went around the whole of the room and we took every single rubber band out from in the seats, apart from the seats that we knew my mum and dad were going to sit in. We felt that that was going to be pushing it a bit too far. We'd get into heaps of trouble. So it came to the time of the prayer meeting. Everyone marched in. They all stood by their seats, said hello to each other, lots of smiles, lots of laughs, lots of expectation. They're in a prayer meeting. They all sat down, and apart from my mum and dad, they all went through the seats and landed on the floor. Everyone looked at my brother and I. We couldn't understand it. How did they know it was us? Well, that's enough said about that, but yeah, we had a great time growing up in my parents' home. I went off to university and met my wife Joanne, and we've been married now for, well, we're coming up to 16 years now, and we've got a little 6-year-old boy called Kieran, and we've got a 13-year-old Cocker Spaniel. We just love life here across in North Wales. It's just fantastic to be able to enjoy that time, and as you probably know, in Wales we call family teulu, and my teulu is really massively important to me. The time I spend with them is really hugely important.
I know you're a hard grafter and you do a lot of work, but when you're not working, what do you like to do?
So I'm a little bit of an outdoors man. I'd like to get outdoors more than I do. In part, that's why we had a dog in the first place, get us out and enjoying life. And coming to North Wales, it's opened up a whole world for us. So as a family, we'll go to the beach, even in the middle of winter. We'll go across to Anglesey. We love eating out. We love enjoying life, you know. And so that forms really a big part of my leisure time. But I'm also a massive rugby fan. And it all started off with following Cardiff RFC. And then it went on to Cardiff Blues, you know, and I know we don't win as much as we might do, but I, you know, still love them. And I'm a massive Welsh rugby fan as well. And I know that this year we can't win the Grand Slam, but I'm still hopeful that we're going to win the championship. As I was talking to one of my mates yesterday, we still use that stereophonic song as our chant. As long as we beat the English, we don't care.
Hi John, I know we're here in Llandudno, the Queen of Welsh Resorts, but I do understand that at some point in the past you have done a bit of work, is that right?
Yes, so when I first started work, I landed in a job that I didn't particularly choose to follow as a career. The job that I first had was a council tax recovery officer, which given my lovely personable, relational personality was not exactly the perfect fit actually for me. I spent a few years doing that, and I got a little bit of a reputation whilst I was doing it that they would never ask me to go and hold an interview with a young mother who had a baby, because my heart would go out to the mother, and I'd end up coming back in saying we've made an agreement on her arrears, and she's going to pay £2.50 a month or something like that, which was never ever going to sort it out. So my career as a council tax recovery officer was doomed before it even started. Beyond that, I then became a support officer, an IT support officer with the local authority in Caerphilly at the time, working with schools, making sure the IT equipment was up to scratch for the kids.
I know now you've moved on from the world of council tax and IT work. Tell us a bit about what it is that you're doing now.
So from very early on, when I came to faith, I realised that my heart was to reach others for Christ. My relationship with Jesus was just so important to me that I just wanted to share that with everyone that I met. And so now I work for a ministry called Christian Vision for Men, and we are building this as a national ministry here in Wales under the title of CVM Cymru. And what we're endeavouring to do is to share the gospel with men in ways that are relevant for them, in ways that they can connect to, and essentially connect men to Jesus Christ. But we're also doing another piece of work with the local church, because we believe that if men are going to be discipled well, and if they're going to become the next generation of evangelists, they need to be well rooted in local church. So we work with the local church, helping them to set up grassroots ministry, whereby they're able to share the gospel with men who are outside of the church, and they're also able to build them up, get them as part of a band of brothers, and then create this movement of men right across Wales who are not only gripped by Jesus, loving with all their hearts, but they are also fully committed to leading their mates to faith in him too.
So John, tell us something about some of the typical events that you organise with CVM.
So we are probably really well known for our men's breakfasts. You know, if you want to reach a man, fill his stomach, that's never changed. So we do lots of men's breakfasts. And what we find there is that they're great for reaching guys who are either on the fringe or are part of the church. We're able to build those guys up, to give them the words to share their faith. And then we do all sorts of different events across the nation. So in a couple of weeks' time, there's going to be a 10-pin bowling competition down in Swansea. We've got another guy in Aberystwyth who's running Who Let the Dads Out. So that's dads with their children coming along in much the same way as a Mums and Tots group. Up here in Llandudno, this coming Monday, we've got the Code event. It's a brand new kind of men's event where we are creating this modern day Viking banquet hall. There's going to be so many things going on to grab the attention of guys. We're going to have sizzling hot loaded bacon rolls, and we're going to share the gospel in amongst that kind of environment, because we believe that most men come to know Jesus. Most men open up their lives within the context of activity rather than just sitting in rows in the kind of traditional Sunday morning service. They get used to that and they will be part of that, but when we're reaching men in the first place, we need to be creative. We need to design events with the men in mind, not so much with what we're used to in mind.
John, obviously CVM focuses particularly on men, but why is it so important that we bring men to know Jesus?
So it's very hard to quantify the actual percentages, but we know time and time again that when a man comes to faith, he has such a strong influence on his family. He becomes a better father, a better husband, and his family begin to get engaged with why has my husband or my father changed so much? And we find that so often the rest of the family comes on the back of him giving his life to Jesus Christ. We run this big festival in Swindon called The Gathering, and we have about 2,500 men who come along to that. The amount of times we hear from the wife when the man goes back home, I don't know what you did to my husband, but he is an entirely different man and I love it. So we know that the man is a gateway to the family. And we unashamedly say, well, if we can reach the man, we have a very, very high chance of reaching the rest of the family.
We've heard something about your working career, but obviously God is at the heart of everything that you do. Tell us a bit about your walk with God.
Yeah, sure. So I was really privileged to be brought up in a Christian home. My father is a Baptist minister, so that officially makes me a PK, pastor's kid. And I'm really grateful for my upbringing. I met Jesus at the age of 14. I have to say I didn't really get serious about following Jesus to its truest extent until I was in university and had to stand on my own 2 feet. But it was an amazing privilege just to be able to know Jesus from such an early age. And I think one of the things I've noticed with God, and particularly God in my life, is that there have been many moments where I've made plans and I've wanted to follow a certain path. Believe it or not, at one point I wanted to be a firefighter. And some would argue that working for CVM Cymru, I am a firefighter, but enough of that. Yeah, God has just changed the plans. He's shown me how he's gifted me, what I need to be focusing on, where I need to put my energies. And I love that. I love the fact that I don't have to ultimately make all the decisions in life to make my life work well. I need to just follow Jesus, submit to him, surrender my life to him, and he takes me into the best possible life that I could ever imagine. And what's more than that, he's going to take me into an eternal life with him. And so when I look to my future, however grim it feels around me right now, society struggling, politics, all of that stuff, I don't need to worry, I don't need to fear, because I know that Jesus is walking me through this life. He's walking me into his kingdom for all eternity. And that's why I'm an evangelist, because when you know that that's the reality, when you know that that's the ultimate truth, why wouldn't you want to share that with everyone around you?